Kia ora. I acknowledge the iwi of Wellington, Ngāti, Toa, Rangatiri and Te Atua as the tanga te whenua of this region. Also, State Library of Victoria, where I work, is located on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd like to inform any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that this presentation contains images and names of deceased people. So what I thought I'd do for this presentation, I thought I'd divide it up into three chunks. I'm taking a little stroll back through my practice. I'm going to talk about how you make experimentation successful in organisations. And then I'm going to talk about how we're applying that at State Library of Victoria. So some background. I love cultural heritage organisations. I have worked in them for a very long time, and I see it as a privilege. Each one of these institutions has provided me with some really fantastic learning opportunities, with a particular bent on how experimentation benefits making collections more accessible, using existing and advanced technologies. So, experimentation, the action of process of trying out new ideas, methods or activities. I've always been curious about how technology can push the boundaries into spaces that is unknown. When I look back at my practice, I realise that I'm actually really comfortable with experimentation, but I've also learnt how to grow with that and embrace it. Underneath, I question, I wonder what's possible here. And it started really early with my photographic practice back at art school, but I acknowledge that not everyone is comfortable with this. And it can be hard to communicate, particularly when the outcome is unknown. But innovation and experimentation is a catalyst for change. We heard Tui talk about change and crisis and how you can use those opportunities to really look at new ways of doing things. But it's not new. It has been around forever. So one example is Bell Labs, started in 1925. After many experiments, the transistor, a semiconductor device that can apply or switch electrical signals, was developed to replace vacuum tubes. This is an important digital innovation back in 1947. But it just goes to show that the desire for new knowledge and using the experimentation practice can reveal some really great outcomes. So I'm going to take you back to 2008, some of the glory days of us working at the Powerhouse Museum. We were the first museum to join Flickr Commons. I'm sure you all know what that is. It's still going today, can you believe it? This was by no means a comfortable risk for the organisation at that time. There were concerns about the loss of revenue for image sales, but also what others might do with our collections, right? So it was a big risk, but we took it. We saw no point of having all this digitised content locked up on our servers without our users knowing this stuff exists. Now, if you look at this clearly, I've just underlined that those stats there. Can you just see that? 25.3 million views to date. It's pretty phenomenal, right? This initiative is still going, and you wouldn't see that level of stats probably on our own websites. But what this did was it increased access to the collection, image sales actually went up, and it connected connected users to content in ways that they had never expected. It led us to do kooky things like create crowd-curated slideshows, which happened at the same time in about 16 global institutions on one weekend across the world, who projected images curated by the crowds. Another example from the powerhouse, before the explosion of immersive digital experiences, an exhibition about Bruno Benini, a photographer whose darkroom process was significant to his work. And we thought, what if we created an experience that had no labels, no didactic information? It was just an experience that people would go into and they would be allowed to interpret that experience themselves, just like Bruno Benini did when he went into that space. We had replica prints of his work in open drying cabinets, and we put trust in the audience not to take them. And they didn't really. There was maybe one. People shared their own darkroom stories in that space, and so the users became the narrative. We didn't provide that story. They were sharing stories with themselves and their friends. So what these experiences and digital products got us started to thinking about was what it means to have audience agency, audience participation, giving them the agency in the content, the stories and the knowledge. And this became a powerful value for the digital work moving forward. The age of participatory experience started to blossom. And it was really around experimentation shaping that practice. Then in 2014, I had the privilege of working for 6 years at State Library of New South Wales in the DX Lab, a dedicated team given the support and remit to do pure experimentation. Similar to what New York Public Library Labs and the British Library Labs had done before, and they were really our mentors and our benchmarks. But this is where I became extremely comfortable with allowing the unknown to become an important part of the practice and letting ideas come from many different parts of the organisation and from our users. Due to a progressive sharing of knowledge, this research is still available today and it's very useful. I often find myself, how do we do that thing? I'm going to go back to the website and have a look. But it allows others to gain critical knowledge. But libraries have always been leaders in experimentation and also labs. In 2019, as Jim mentioned, 16 international peers came together to write a book in 1 week. And this was a practical handbook on how to set up and run a lab in a cultural institution. I'm pleased to say that many of the labs that were around at that time still exist today, and it's a really useful handbook you can pick up, read a chapter, put it down, go back and read another one. It's worth checking out. But one of the key values of this work across my practice and working in labs has come down to this. It's curiosity, the strong desire to know or learn something. Something that I really look for in people in hiring is, do they have curiosity to explore something? Is there a desire to understand how something works? And what if you could push that a little bit further to solve a problem? So once you've got that, all your staff of oodles of curiosity, you need this, okay? There's 2 things that your staff need. They need the trust and they need the support to allow them to achieve success. If they don't have this, experimentation can become a battle, right? A constant justification up the chain, resulting in wasted time and energy. When I look back on my career, and I've actually done a presentation on why some of our digital products and experience were successful, when some of the cool things I thought, oh yeah, they're amazing, didn't kind of gel so well, and the other ones had real resonance and great successful outcomes, were when these values aligned and we had support right from the top all the way down. So what is digital? If you think digital is confusing, wait till you start trying to explain experimentation and innovation. I bet you here each one of us would have a different response in our organisations to describe digital for me, I think it's become more distributed than ever. However, if you asked your collections team or your finance teams what they do, we'd all generally get the same response. But throw an experimental practice into the mix and it's even harder for people to grasp. This is where clarity, good communication and sharing is vital. Now, we've all been in institutions where someone says, we need a thing, we need that thing, because they have that thing. Insert the name of any digital product here. All right? We've all done it, actually. It happens all the time. The practice of prototyping and iterating is not the way cultural heritage workers have been conditioned. We think we know what our audiences want, and we're also very quick to come to the solution first, before knowing what actually they want. So now I'm going to switch to the library context. Libraries enrich the cultural, educational, social and economic lives of the people they serve. They're the civic hearts of their communities and provide services and experiences that allow users to gain knowledge, to learn, to form new knowledge, be creative, research and be productive. They're free to access and open to all. Libraries do a lot for society, and I can't think of a more important time right now. Where do people turn to get help with services, a free space to work, study or meet people? But libraries have to adapt and they have to keep moving with the expectations that our younger audiences are requiring from us. Our audiences are vastly becoming the born digital era. So the future library needs to allow for greater access in a rapidly changing digital economy, needs to drive digital literacy and skills and promote innovation to enable productivity across business, research and creativity. Now, for a little bit about how we're applying experimentation and innovation at State Library Victoria. Since the library first opens its doors in 1856, it's been a hub of knowledge, creativity and opportunity for all Victorians. We're now the third busiest library in the world. We've become more than an institution that people flock to through the physical doors. They're coming to us via the browser in astonishing numbers. I think we had almost 6 million people visit our website in the past year. But we need to be ready for a digital future, one where the visitor is at the heart of everything we do. So our digital strategy is focused on the customer. There's no better time to be a trusted organisation in a tech world full of possibility, but also misinformation and disinformation, as we've just heard. With digital, the library users allow access that's always on and always accessible. And our audiences are getting younger and younger. 75% of our audience are under the age of 35 and from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, which is around 50%. And they spend up to 2 hours on site. As part of our digital strategy, we're focusing on these 4 distinct areas. What does free to access mean? The browser is always on and always accessible. We're creating the same space online that the physical library holds with visitors. Physical and digital is combined. It's no longer binary. Innovation drives new knowledge and we share this widely. Which leads us to being ready for a fast-changing digital economy and a library that can adapt and change where and when it needs to. So we want to be really clear. We want to communicate more broadly about the values. User first, the voice of the customer drives everything. Experimentation, dedicated time to explore advanced and emerging technologies and how they shape better services and access. We're responsive. Things move quickly, we must be ready and we must adapt. Curiosity, we don't know everything. Make space for exploring and use the data to inform better decision making. Our design principles. Accessibility is core to our principles. We will be as open with our code, our collections and our services where permissions apply. Interoperable, make it easy to connect to other things, systems and people. And enriching, really try to make great experiences. So we have a big strategy, we have a plan, but we really want to boil that down to simple language so that our staff can connect to 5 key strategies in everything we do. Showing what's possible, opening up the collection, building the digital precinct, embracing the future web, and enabling the digital centrepiece, which is a gallery space that we're turning into an immersive experience and a research centre. And these fall under 4 simple frameworks. Innovation.
Innovation is
creativity, having a vision,
curiosity,
room to experiment, having access,
human creativity trying to push boundaries,
creating a space in which failure is accepted. It's about culture.
That when they come to the library, the stories and experiences and perspectives and skills that different people have, the library becomes a place to synthesise that knowledge.
Since its foundation been a place for ideas and knowledge and conversation and dialogue, how can we also do innovation in a way that opens up those conversations to have with others?
The libraries will be places where we help others understand that they can be innovators.
Launched just this week. This is the platform that pushes the boundaries of what a library can be. It has 3 distinct strands, and in 3 simple words, it's about bringing people together to find new ways of working and to share the results through publishing platforms. But we need to create the space for experimentation. Staff are trusted and supported to explore ideas. The majority of your staff will not exploit this. They will generally come up with the results and be driven to find new ways of working. It can be as small enough as a once a month knowledge sharing group, such as Code Club, which you'll hear more about later in this conference. 2, second framework, research. Allow skills to come into the organisation where they don't exist. It's impossible to know and have all the answers. Turn to experts, invite them in, but make sure your staff have the opportunity to learn with those people. So we've got a couple of programs that we're kicking off. We've got a Creative Technologist in Residence program, which is a short stint making sure that our collections will be more accessible through innovation, and also applying an AI researcher in residence, because we feel as a library that our duty to our users is access to information. So yes, we can use AI, we can try and test things, but actually what we need to do is to provide a corpus of knowledge around this technology. Get others to share their knowledge. We're pairing up different leaders in their fields to have conversations about how advanced technologies will impact the library now and in the future. Keep it simple. This is just an audio recording with people together to allow new forms of knowledge to be shared. You'll find all of this on the SLV Lab website, by the way. Small plug. The third framework is about experiences. The physical and the digital come together to complement each other. And in a way, I look back and I think we're trying to slow the visitor down with longer forms of content, self-driven or curated options. What I'm about to show you is a digital experience in the browser. We're calling it a cinematic web experience. It's called Mouthful of Dust. It's just launched, and this has come about through some experimentation, and then we've turned it into a longer form product. We are creating spaces that are slightly more nimble and responsive on site, connecting the on-site to the browser experience. We're trying to have these spaces that are a bit more flexible, quick changes, show works in progress, that we can then gain feedback from our audiences in real time. So this is going to be our digital lounge. We're thinking about legacy and the long tail. How can we provide the ability for our users to look back on how things were done? The post-visit experience, the pre-visit experience, all of our exhibitions are going to be documented in 3D, ensuring that everyone can continue to enjoy and learn from the curated content and stories created. One of the biggest challenges that our visitors face at the library is wayfinding. We have a complex maze of 23 different buildings. Staff often get lost. It's like being in an Escher painting. You just go up some stairs, down some stairs, and you open a door and you never know where you're going to be. But it's a big problem. Be driven by the user. The future library is where navigating collections and spaces is as intuitive as making online transactions or finding your way through a complex shopping centre. Our audience expect great, seamless and intuitive interactions. So we've mapped the whole library in 3D, and this will allow us to transform how visitors experience and navigate these spaces. But once we have these files, we can start to think about other ways in which we can use that content. So multiple platforms can be explored. And this is just an example. Think about where those assets can go. Think, for parents of teenagers in the room, you'll know what that is. One of the most popular games online, Fortnite. I don't know, is it still the most popular? But, you know, think about going beyond your institution's walls. What would it mean if we did make a Fortnite experience of the library? What would it mean if we had a skin of Ned Kelly's armour that was available? Morally, ethically, should we do it? But at least we can have these conversations. And we've got these assets. We can do it. We just need to think a little bit differently about access and where people are getting their content. I'm actually running to time. I think that might be a first. Lastly, partnerships. We can't do this on our own. We are in very challenging times. As Tui said, we've all got potential cuts coming. You know, we've got to look at different ways of working. It's lean times. We have to think more broadly about who we can collaborate with and allow us to achieve this vision. Invite them in, be open to ideas, keep things doable at the beginning, and then see if they can scale. You know, start small. Often I think, you know, those big 3 to 4 year massive projects where some people may want to stick pins in their eyes before they launch can be really hard. You know, they can be really expensive, and also the tech is moving way too fast, right? What you think you might be able to deliver now and make it successful in 2 years' time, I can guarantee you it won't be, because it's just moving too fast. So keep it nimble, scale it up, try new things. We've partnered with the research advanced manufacturing 3D printing space at RMIT, just across the road from us, who have been 3D printing Ned Kelly's helmet in a 1-to-1 scale. What could we do with that? Could we provide low vision and blind visitors with a tactile experience? Can we get a travelling educational kit to every school in Victoria, which links to the 3D online cinematic web experience, but also allows them to have some curriculum and learning outcomes through that? Let others tell the stories of your collections. It's not solely the responsibility of us. Invite externals in, learn together, share together. This was a recent event at most state and the National Library across Australia, where Tim Ross, a comedian, design enthusiast, has explored all of those collections after many, many years and has come up with the concept of the Australian dream. It's about the housing crisis. So very topical, and he's using collections to tell those stories. So expose people to the collections where they may not know. Put them in the hands of others, and you never know what might happen. Thank you.